So let's put up a chat. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
We're here a little bit early. Last time we were here a little bit late.
Do we have people in the room?
Let us know in the chat box. Otherwise, we will continue to talk about the gut biome.
I'll send you my paper when I'm done.
I would love to see that. So also involved with that is the biofilms in the gut. Are you getting into that at all?
Not in this one. I'm just mostly focusing on antibiotics.
So I went ahead and after reading one of Dr. Shoppy's students' paper on stevia and alcohol-derived stevia, so alcohol extract of stevia leaf, and it breaks up biofilm.
I read that paper and I listened to your podcast with her. That was really interesting.
It was kind of a side note, so that is very interesting. So I've got some of that on order. Most of the stevia is they don't have the alcohol in it. It's natural, and they're trying to appeal to everybody. So you have to kind of go out of your way to get the tincture.
So they don't really sell that one at your local?
They had to order it for me.
Okay.
Hi, Jennifer.
Oops. Hi, Jennifer. I loved your ceremony.
We're all inspired.
I was definitely inspired. I have a puncheon bag at home, and I was thinking that I wanted to involve that in an anger ceremony. But I didn't think it was appropriate to do an anger ceremony when I was house sitting somebody else's house.
Well, you don't have to break anything.
I didn't want to punch her pillows or, scare her dogs, traumatize her dogs.
Just they would understand. They wouldn't be traumatized.
That's true. They would understand.
They'd probably growl with you. Join in the fray. Now, I know Stacy is going to be at a birthday party, so she won't be joining us. Sherilyn is on the road, so we'll be phoning in. And everybody else, as far as I know, will be here. Hi, Jamie Ann. Welcome.
Hi, Jamie Ann.
So it's just 7 o'clock right now. Let's give Lee and Melanie and Mona just another minute or two in case they're having technical difficulties logging on. And while we're waiting, we know Jennifer. Jamie Ann, did you do a ceremony at all? Would you just let us know in the chat box? It's just so we can tailor today's session a little bit more direct there. It's fine if you haven't. Just want to know so we give you the right information. Okay, cool. So tomorrow morning? Yeah, there's no slacking off with this. It's we're Taoist and Yoda, and there's either do or no do. So just an opportunity.
Yeah, tonight's presentation will cover a lot about just being kind to yourself and allowing the slacking off sometimes. With this, you're going to have bad days or bad weeks sometimes, and it's okay.
Okay, well, we're about a minute in, and this is it. So let's just get started. Okay, let me stop sharing this welcome screen. And there I am. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Let's get it so Erin can pop up too. Okay, say a hello again, Erin. You should
There we
pop
go.
up.
Hello. I'm finally getting better at looking at the camera instead of looking down at windows. And there we go. Getting the hang of this webinar thing.
Hey, I still look down at my notes, so
Yeah.
I have the shifty eyeballs. Okay, so I'm assuming everybody can hear just Jennifer and Jamie Ann. Preschool time. Wait a minute. I'm just reading this chat now. Oh, it so is hard to do with little ones around. Jamie Ann, how old are your children? Let us know in the chat box. I'm very curious. So last week we went into depth with the law of ceremony. And this week we're going to get into the law of flow. And I know we already answered the question of who just joined us.
Charlene.
Hey, Sherilyn.
Hi, Charlene.
If you have, Sherilyn, if you have chat available on your screen, will you just let us know if you did a ceremony, please? Jamie Ann, 3 and 5-year-old. My goodness, you have your hands full. So we're going to get into the law of the flow. And once the bus is rolling, like once you've got your emotions flowing, once you've got your healing going, it's like, how do you keep it going, right? And not that you don't have setbacks or things don't get in your way, obstacles show up, hurdles and whatnot, but that the spiral we're climbing the spiral here. We're climbing the staircase. We're going up rather than sinking down. So again, there may be setbacks, there may be obstacles that come up, but the overall sense is that, yes, we're making progress. So the law of flow is about how to do that in this emotional energy arena, and we'll get into that. And I'm going to introduce you to a 5-element acupuncture concept called the causative factor. And that's, if you can identify the causative factor, it's like your ceremony gets multiplied times 10. Like the energy, it makes everything flow just more in terms of not only your emotions, but your energy, your physical well-being. Like everything begins to move if you get that note just right. So we're going to talk about that concept, and that'll help prepare you to try and suss that out, see if you can figure it out. And also, if you do have that experience, you'll kind of understand why. Like if you do one ceremony and all of a sudden the entire world changes, it's not just the power of the ceremony, but it's the right emotion at the right time. It's kind of like the key that unlocks the lock and gets it all moving in the same direction. Okay, and also Jennifer, you asked for a replay or some explanation about the control cycle and the Shen cycle. So how the emotions influence each other and kind of build on each other and also control each other. So I'm going to replay that session. That was about, I forget how long the video was, about 4 minutes. It's not that long. Okay, Erin, anything you want to add?
Nope, I'm really excited to start tonight. It's going to be great.
Okie dokie. And so let's begin to just jump right in. We won't try to get any sharing going because that's been a disaster. Oh, the other thing I want to say, we're going to have, there are 2 things. We have the makeup session that we're going to do, and I'll find a good time for us to do that. And with that, we're going to try another system that's more sharing friendly. So we'll be able to talk to each other a little bit more. And I want to test that out, and you're a great group to test it out on. It'll be nice to have some more interaction. So I'll give you all the instructions for that. It should be just about the same as doing this, except hopefully it'll be a lot easier in terms of being able to speak with each other. So that's A. And then B, part of the bonus for signing up was that you do have a phone call with me. And I encourage you to take advantage of that. So send me an email. Let's set up a time and just chat. So if you're stuck with some of this, if you're having trouble figuring out what to do for your ceremony, or you just want to talk about the emotions and how they work together, whatever it is, it's your half hour. But I really want to talk to you and make that available to you. Okay, doink, 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 going down the list here. Okay, we're going to set up Erin and the law of flow. So Erin, anything you want to say about your presentation before we get started on it?
No. You can just go right into it, and I might have some things to add at the end. I'll play along with you guys.
Okay, there are two writing exercises in this session. So if you do have a pen and paper handy, it will be very helpful when we get to the writing sessions. All right, here's Aaron's part one of the law of flow. Okie dokie. Once again, brilliant work, Erin. Thanks for putting that together.
Thank you.
And is there anything you want to say about the writing exercise?
Do you want me to go over the instructions again? And I'll tell you a little bit about why I thought it was important.
Sure. Why don't I put those on the screen too? Let's see if I can do this a different way here. Okay. There we go.
So respond to the following question. What are some ways that you might blame yourself for your illness experience? And notice the following. How does it feel in your body when you think about these topics? And I think that this is important because it can be one of the barriers to keeping us flowing and to keep everything moving. And I think it's also good to notice how self-blame feels in your body, because I think you'll start to notice that it's very contracting and tightening, and that even your body starts to lack like a flowing movement. So, and then we'll talk a little bit more about self-compassion and how that's the antidote to self-blame.
Okay, so we'll give you 3 to 5 minutes. And as always, when you're wrapping up, just go ahead and let us know in the chat and we'll move on from there. Okay, it looks like we're wrapping up here. So let us, as we're presenting this next section, go ahead. If you do have any questions during this, just go ahead and type them in the chat box and then we'll address them when the session is over. I mean, the presentation part is over. Okay, so let's get this video open right. So there's part two. And at the end of part two, we're going to have another writing exercise. And this is where Erin takes us deeper into self-compassion and how to keep things moving. So here we go. Okay, brilliant. So we have another writing exercise for you to do. And Erin, do you want to set that up a little bit?
Sure. So this exercise that we went over in the video is to respond to the following question. What are some comforting phrases you could say to yourself when you find yourself stuck in self-blame? And notice the following. How does it feel in your body when you say these phrases to yourself? Again, this is just because self-blame can really stop us from flowing. And so if we can find those moments and shed some self-compassion on them and comfort ourselves, it can really help get the flow going again. And coming back to the body and seeing how the body feels is always really helpful and a really good indicator of whether we're stuck or whether we're flowing. You'll start to notice how it shows up in your body.
And so is that why you include the kind of the check-in with your body for each of these writing exercises?
Yeah, I think the body is one of the most honest instruments that we'll ever own. And so it's been a big help for me throughout this whole process because I can kind of tell when I'm contracting and, getting really stuck around something versus when I'm expanding and feeling a lot more spacious and open to everything. So it's been a really helpful partner. Went from an enemy at one point a long time ago, and now it's kind of my partner in healing crime.
Okay, very cool. All right, we'll give you a few more minutes to do this exercise. And again, when you're wrapping up, go ahead and let us know in the chat box and we'll move on. There we go. That's up on screen. You can see that, Erin, right?
Yep.
Okie doke. Right away. Okay. And I'm going to take a risk here. Jamie Ann, I'm going to see if I can't bring you on screen. So I'm going to invite you as a speaker and follow the prompt and see if we can't get you live to hear from you. Since there are only a handful of us here tonight, I thought I'd go ahead and give it a risk. So let's see how it works. See if you pop up in a few seconds. I'd like to hear from you about what you're planning to do for your ceremony. We heard so beautifully from Jennifer and what was going on here. And we're about to get into kind of the mechanics of it. What I saw is the five element theory behind her ceremony. And even though she claims she just did this off the cuff, and I believe her, there's some intuitive piecing together. I think you've learned more than you may think you have, Jennifer.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, there's Jamie Ann.
Hey, Jamie Ann. We can see her.
You have your microphone on, Jamie Ann? I wonder if she got booted out. She showed up.
Oh, that happens sometimes.
Yep. So, Jamie Ann, we see you on the control screen. We just don't hear you. I think all our brains are catching up slowly. Jamie, why don't you try turning off your camera and see if we just get audio? Because I did see your video pop up for a second and then it flashed off, so maybe there's a bandwidth issue going on. Let's see.
Oh, it looks like she got kicked out.
Oh, boo. Where did you see that in the chat?
In the room, when I look at the attendees, I don't see her name now.
Well, that's because she's a presenter. She shouldn't be in there.
Oh, okay.
She should show up as a presenter, I believe.
Gotcha.
Well, we took a risk.
Yep, she got kicked.
Oh, boo. Let's Jennifer, hang in there with us. See if she can come back on here. I type in my opinion about that. Okay, Jamie Ann. Thank you for trying. It's through our limited system. Anyway, we learned this way. Let's see, she requested to come in, so let's do it this way. Let's try it again. I don't know why the system kicks people off.
Yeah, that's strange.
Especially after it was right there. We do everything correctly. Okay, she just shows up again. Jamie Ann, can you hear us? She must have gotten booted again.
Wow.
I think. Okay. So Jamie Ann, once again, we see you show up on our control screen as a co-presenter, which means we should be able to hear you and talk to you. But obviously, that's not working. So we'll return you to presenter mode. Thanks for trying the experiment. I appreciate it. Sorry to create some frustration there. And go ahead and type in the chat box, Jamie, and let us know that you are hearing us. I don't want you to miss out on what we're going to do next. So, Jennifer, this part is particularly for you. And since you brought it up, I think, don't worry about it, Jamie Ann. I think you brought up a good point. Some of the stuff we're kind of cruising by so fast that it could use a revisit. And so I'm going to revisit the portion of the training we did actually a couple weeks ago about the five elements and the emotions and how they interrelate to each other. And that was really so interesting about your ceremony, is that it clearly showed the relationships. It was almost textbook, the relationship and how wood creates fire, so how anger creates joy, and how metal and returning and grief and letting go and acknowledging things, being grateful for things, controls energy. And we have other language for that. We call that the law of mother-child. So the mother gives energy to the child and makes it grow bigger, and the grandmother kind of is the controlling influence. So nature needs an accelerator and it needs a brake, right? Because otherwise you have like an invasive species and things just run amok, and just like kudzu in the South, it just was everywhere, all over the place. Well, in a similar vein, is there's too much control, right? Then you can have a species be on the brink of extinction. like we had with so many different animals over the years. Bald eagles and snail darters out west. Those are two that just come to mind from the news stories. So we're going to go over this again and go around the entire cycle, and you'll begin to see the connections. And it may give you some more ideas now that you're thinking about in terms of ceremony. So let me go ahead and cue this video up, and we'll be back in a little. Okay. Does that make more sense the second time around? If it does, just type yes in the chat box. And if you have any questions about that, go ahead and also type that in the chat box now. I know it can be very technical, and it really gets to the next concept we're going to introduce, which is the causative factor. But I want to give a chance to pause here, ask any questions. So, Aaron, do you have anything that you want to say or any questions that you have about this?
I love that video because I think it demonstrates the law of grasping and resisting, the importance of the law of ceremony, and it just really gets into flow. Like you can just see it with the circular nature of your diagram and how everything just connects to everything else. And I think it shows why grasping and resisting can get us stuck, and then how we went through all of the ceremonies to get everything flowing again. So I hope that that video really helps everyone understand this concept of flow.
All right, thanks. And also, you can see that it can start with any one of the emotions and it will affect all the other ones. And the energy is the same way. And our health is the same way. That's really the brilliant insight of five element acupuncture is that any one symptom can start from any imbalance. And so it's important to not just kind of stop the alarm, which is the symptom, but to try and identify the underlying imbalance in the energy. And by putting that together, by finding out by finding out the causative factor, then you can truly heal at a profound, deep, and uh, I don't even want to say this over time. It's like it will unfold over time. You won't just heal that particular problem that's right in front of you right now. You will be healthier down the road. The spiral will be going up there. So, with this, I'm not seeing any questions coming up. So, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to have a little treat. We're going to have a video by J.R. Worsley, and he's the father of five element acupuncture. He brought it from the East, from Hong Kong and Taiwan, and a little bit from China to England. And that's where my teachers studied with him. And I got to spend a month with him in, I think it was 1990. He's a fascinating character. So it's a very short video. It's a little technical, but I think it's a really good introduction to the causative factor and kind of the philosophy that kind of shapes me and what shaped this training as well. So you get a little taste of J.R. Worsley, and then we'll come back and talk about that and move on to my explanation of kind of elucidate what he said and make it a little more easy to understand. So here we go. I think you'll hang in here. You're all smart. Here All right. That's J.R. Worsley. He's quite the character. Never worried about overstating the facts. He's very dramatic in his presentations.
Yeah, that was pretty powerful when he compared silencing a symptom to gagging a child. I was like, wow, it's true. That's crazy.
Yes, it's over the top, but that's he. We talked about he has another analogy of pulling the wires for the light switch on a car annunciator,
Oh
so
yeah.
like the engine warning lights like that. So I think he toned it down a little bit. He may have gotten a little pushback from that analogy, but it makes the point very strongly. It makes
Yeah.
the point very strongly. That's for sure. All right. Does anybody have questions about that? Aaron, do you have a question about that?
Yeah, the whole time I was watching it, I was just curious as to how the causative factor plays into the emotions. And then I was wondering how people can start to identify their causative factor, which I imagine a lot of the tools that we've talked about in these last few presentations would be really helpful for that.
Okay, so question one was how does the causative factor play into the emotions?
Mm-hmm.
And then how do you identify the causative factor, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see if I can do this succinctly. And Jamie Ann says, so is our causative factor Lyme disease or emotional or goo? That's a very good question too. So we've going to have a really rich discussion here. Okay. The critical thing, and you heard him say it there, although he just passed by it very quickly. The causative factor is determined by a person's color, sound, odor, and emotion. So these are subtle signs that a person is constantly giving off that alert us to the imbalance. Now, even when somebody is perfectly healthy, whether they have something that's just a minor problem that's bothering them, say with too much stress or a problem sleeping, but not really diagnosable disease, they the causative factor will begin to be louder and louder in their presentation. But even when somebody's completely healthy, there's a home base that people come to. There's an emotional state that they like. There's the sound of a voice that's there. There's the color that tends to show up more than the other ones. And then there's an odor, and the person's odor tends to be fairly stable. That doesn't change around so much there. So that's the basis of the diagnosis. So Jamie, I'm going to answer your question here a little bit. So is your causative factor Lyme? No, it's not the causative factor. However, it's an outside invasion. It's actually a possession. So Goose syndrome is a possession, which is a whole nother class of illness in Chinese medicine. And a possession, you're thinking about like horror movies and head spinning around and pea soup and stuff like that. But really, all possession means is that some other agency has taken over you, and it's not you that has control. Does that make sense? So there's lots of different ways to treat this, and there's specific acupuncture treatments that I do. And it's one of the things that I do with Lyme patients is I start out with a treatment for possession and with involving needles. So it's not about killing the bacteria per se. It's about regaining a sense of control and reintegrating the body that's we've been cut off from. So that's a very, very interesting question. So the short answer is no, it's not our causative factor, although it is the driving factor, right? Especially if it has invaded you and if it is running the show. Now, you can be completely sick and not be possessed, right? You can be having all kinds of problems and not be possessed. So it's not about the severity of your illness. It's more about whether or not you have the sense of control or not, or whether or not you're in control, whether you have the ability to like conduct the ceremony and get something out of it. If the parasite, if the Goose syndrome is in control, if the Lyme disease in control, you can do ceremonies. You might be able to not get anything out of the ceremony. It's like it may block you from doing that, but I don't. Anyway, I think the ceremonies are powerful enough that can break through even corners of this. So I'm not that concerned about it. So then how does the CF relate to your emotions? The CF is the soil, is the ground from which everything arises. So it's the pattern from which things emerge. So if you're a water causative factor, you're going to have a fear reaction almost as a reflex. It's like that's going to be a natural state for you. You're just going to be a more cautious person. If you're a wood causative factor, you're going to be more about getting things done, and you're going to have a little anger from time to time, but you're going to be very direct and have lots of plans and lots of ideas, and you want to push through to get things done. A fire person is going to be more about relationships and joy and just connecting, and let's just hold hands and sing kumbaya together and have a good time. So you can begin to see that your causative factor kind of gives you your personality, gives you your emotional home base there. And as the CF gets stressed and we get sicker, either the emotion shows up more and more and more in some of these large emotions like fear and anger, or it tends to dissipate. So there's a lack of joy, there's a lack of sympathy. There can be a lack of grief, but again, grief tends to be, we tend to let go, no, not let go too much. We tend to lose sight of what's precious, and we feel disconnected from everything. Kind of what's the use of going on type of thing. So that's how it affects the emotions. And the second part of your question, Aaron, was I forgot already.
How do people start to identify the causative
Yes.
factor?
So I think Jennifer's ceremony is a clue that her causative factor might be wood. Well, first of all, that she had the kicking dummy to begin with is a pretty good clue that she got something out of that when she was healthy. And then when she really expressed and got the wood ceremony going, it's like all of a sudden all these other emotions started to show up. So what I'll show you in the presentation coming up about causative factor is when you get the causative factor right, it's like everything moves in an incredibly powerful way. So with a very small intervention, all kinds of things move. Now, I have a master's degree in finding somebody's color, finding somebody's sound, so finding somebody's odor, finding somebody's emotion. So I'm not expecting you to do that, but you do have all this lifelong experience in emotion. So you've got one of the tools. You can identify kind of this home base and play with the emotions. And again, if there's this outsized response where all of a sudden everything's moving in large ways, then you probably know that that's your causative factor. So that's, I don't know if is that a good enough answer, Aaron, or
Yeah, and so when you say causative factor, you mean the one element where if you play with that element in your life, you're going to get the most healing out of it or get it into balance. So it's like the one element and all of the things associated with that element, the emotions, the smell, the sound. When you get that into balance, all of the others start flowing more.
yeah, yes. So when I'm treating somebody in my office, I endeavor to identify their causative factor, and then most of my treatments will be in that element. So
Mhm.
I'll select points in that element. So points relate to, that's a little technical, but they're points with that element. And if I get it right, people get all kinds of things get better, and sometimes quickly, sometimes it unfolds over time, but you can get all kinds of incredible results. So instead of treating somebody's migraine and their irritable bowel and their right foot pain, if you get to the causative factor, all those other things begin to clearing up on their own. It's really quite remarkable. So let's go ahead and start my part of the presentation here. Do we have any other questions? Not right now. And so this will explain a little bit more about the patterns that kind of come out of our causative factor and see if this makes a little bit more sense. Here we go. All right.
into it.
Okay. If that was helpful, go ahead and type yes in the chat box for me. And if you have any more questions, please type away also. So we'll begin to wrap up this session here. We've given you a lot to chew on. So really, the idea of flow is that if you're able to kind of work through these ceremonies and work through emotions and identify your causative factor, you can keep coming back to the same theme and maybe even the same ceremony, you know, with slight changes or the same one, and still have a really big impact with it. Because the point of the ceremony is to move your underlying energy to create the health. We used emotions because it's easy to understand and accessible, but really my secret plan here is to help you to move your energy, which is underlying. And in moving the energy, that's where really the healing can open up. The antibiotics become more effective, so forth and so on. It's really incredible. With acupuncture, once you get the energy flowing in the body, a little more balance, people need less drugs. The drugs they do take are more effective. They just feel better about the condition, even if nothing else changes. So moving your energy, moving your emotions is a critical piece to this. And this is our access to it. This is the easy access to it. So that's why we chose emotion. That's why I chose emotions. And I was so excited when I met Erin and she presented this beautiful ceremony. I used to give ceremonies, I would call it homework. I have some homework for you, but a ceremony is so much more rich, and it's just a much more robust way of presenting this. And there's so much more possibility with it than just saying, okay, I've got some homework for you, which sounds kind of, I don't know, it's not as much fun. Erin, do you have anything you want to add?
I liked how you pointed out that once you start, addressing the causative factor and everything starts flowing, that people have better responses to their medication, or they're just better with their circumstances. Because I think that that's really important, because sometimes we do everything quote unquote right, and we might still have physical symptoms. But I think when everything's flowing, you're right that you just feel better with the circumstances. And that's really that's a beautiful thing.
Okay, can you guys hear me out there? Because I don't see any chats coming in. I wonder if there's just a massive delay here going on with our system, or if I put everybody to sleep out there, which has been known to happen. So come on, type something in the chat box so I know you're there.
Oh,
hey, hi, Jamie and Jennifer. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. I do get paranoid from time to time, even though I smile all the time. Little rodents running around in my head, having conversations with me. Try to put them off to the side and just say hello to them from now and then, right? Scooch them over. Diane Colley would say, give them a kiss and scooch them over.
Yeah.
Right? Jamie, and not sleeping, this has been very interesting. Thanks. That's the right answer, Jamie Ann. Thank you so much. Okay, the other thing that I want to bring up and highlight from Erin's presentation is this idea of flow. Now, that's really from the psychological world, but I think it's such a powerful concept that we want to bring it in. And that's why we named the last law, the law number 6, the law of flow. And that technically there are 4 ways to get into it, but I believe that there's 5, because I'm a 5-element acupuncturist. I believe there's always at least 5. So the ways to access flow, really to stop the mind chatter, to feel alive, to feel robust again, to feel energized. The number 1 way that they found, what came the first entry into this, is the people who do life and death challenges. So a race car driver, somebody who likes to do extreme skiing or giant wave surfing, something like that. Now, if you have Lyme disease and you're bedridden, that makes it really tough to get into flow. So you got to find a secondary way, or, create some other challenge, maybe really challenge yourself physically that way. So if you have a friend who's like that, if you're not like that themselves, so they can really lose themselves. As somebody who, I've interviewed a couple of people like this, that they're incredibly active, and all of a sudden Lyme hits and they're just shut down. So their normal access to flow, to keeping the energy moving, the co-cycle, not the co-cycle, the Shen cycle moving around, the creative cycle moving around has been shut down. They don't have access to that. So that's number one. So you have to find an alternative way. The second way people get into flow is being around other people. And again, Lyme can isolate you like crazy. So if you know you're a kind of person that needs to be around people, that's probably a fire causative factor. You're probably a fire CF, but you need to make sure you're around good, positive people. So figure it out. Invite people over, make new friends, do something. Invite old friends and have a little party or a little tiny party. Or bring people around. Get on the telephone. I mean, the telephone is a thing we've forgotten about. Who calls anybody anymore? So something like that, it's critical. And being around people like that will light you up. It lights these people up. Another way is to be out in nature. Now, again, if you're bedridden or stuck, you can't really get in nature, but nature's just outside the window. You know, maybe nurture a plant, start a bonsai tree. I heard one woman who had a really bad concussion and was bedridden, and she would just count the number of birds she saw in a day. That was her connection with nature, and that put her outside her room and reconnected with nature. And she started feeling alive again. And kind of the last technical way is quiet, solitude, peacefulness, and this is a little bit more like the metal element. So just some silence. It might be the water element, but I think the water element is more about the extreme kind of adrenaline rush kind of thing. But this is just about being quiet and contemplative and get into our own thoughts. And I want to divide out, I think there's a fifth one that has to do with kind of getting into a subject deeply, whether it's research, whether it's music, whether it's painting, where we lose ourselves kind of in a process like that. So it's not very active, it's not death defying, it's nothing like that, but it's something where we're really concentrated on, and hours can go by and we can feel, you know, connected with the universe and with God that way. So there are really these 5 ways that we can get into flow. And so I encourage you to explore that avenue too. And I think they, you know, because there are 5 of them, I would match them up with an element. They may give you another clue as to what your causative factor is there. And again, so that's the extreme sports, and that's the emphasis of the water element. The water, see, water's not only about being quiet, it's also about emphasizing. So it can be calm like a pond, or it can be raging like a tsunami. So that's the major differences there. And that's kind of the extreme sport kind of thing. Let's see what it was. The being connected with nature, I think, has to do with the metal element. Kind of being deep in thought has to do with the earth element. Being around people has to be with, I'm rethinking things that have to do with the fire element. So maybe the extreme sports is more the wood element. I don't know. Maybe I'm going back and forth on that one. And I think I've left one out. Erin, what did I leave out?
So you did wood, earth.
Earth was the music and the painting.
Okay.
Connecting with nature was the metal element. The joy from being around people is a fire element. The extreme sports we're calling water right now. Mm-hmm. And then, so there was the sports. There's one other one. Being around people. Anyway, I'm forgetting it. So sorry, I blanked on what the 4th one is. Do you remember from your presentation? Oh, no.
You know, I can pull it up real quick. It's right next to me.
Okay, see if you can help me out here. And then lastly, as Erin's bailing me out here, I've got a quote for you. Quiet people missing. Yes, that's exactly right. The quiet people are missing. Thank you, Jamie Ann. Book readers and retreaters. Exactly. Perfect. So let's put them in the water element. So things need to be quiet and calm, and let's put the extreme sports people into the wood. So let's change that there. I think you could make an argument either way, but after thinking this through a little bit, yeah, I think the quiet's the water element, the challenge, you know, the people who need a challenge. I know older people, as their knees go and they were competitive runners and things like that, and I find my wood element people, I'll suggest my homework for them, a ceremony for them, is go play cards. You know, go play a killer game of Scrabble. You know, they need that kind of challenge. I have a friend of mine, her mom was an all-state basketball player in New Jersey back in the whenever it was, in the 50s or something like that. And this woman, to this day, she has 2 knee replacements. She kind of waddles around, but she's the most competitive person I've ever met. And she, all day long, she's on Words with Friends. And I tried to play a game with her once, but it was brutal. She, first of all, she kicked my rear end, which wasn't fun. But she came up with words that, and Words with Friends, you can, they're not even words. Anyway, I'm a little competitive too, so I demurred after that. She said, "You stopped playing with me." I said, "Oh, I was just too busy." So I think we'll put that in the wood element. So thank you, Jamie Ann, for bringing that up. And now let me call up. I've got this fabulous quote that I want to share with you, and it's from a well-known philosopher who we've all heard of. Okay, there we go. Is that on screen, Aaron? Do you see the bricks?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep, and it's a powerful quote, and I want to leave you with that this evening. So, and it's a philosopher we all know and love, and it's Christopher Robin from Winnie the Pooh. And I'm sure you've heard this quote: "If ever there is a tomorrow when we're not together, there is something you must always remember. You're braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. But the most important thing is, even when we're apart, I'll always be with you." And I'll change that little quote to cover Aaron too. "We'll always be with you." So we formed the bond here, and we're here for you. We're now your friends. So feel free to email us. And then we're kind of bringing this to a close. We've got our extra session that we'll do, but we're really, this is the end. We've given you the tools now. And kind of going back to that early quote, the way is in the training. The way to get this moving for yourself is to do these ceremonies. And Jennifer has really shown the way for us. And I just invite you all to just jump in and trust the process and go forward. So as always, Aaron and I will hang around for a little while and answer questions if you have any, but this is the end to the formal part of the presentation. Thank you all for being here, and I look forward to our extra presentation. And please email me and let's set up a time where we can talk on the phone. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Okay, let me get Christopher Robin off the screen here. Our athletic director reads this to this graduating seniors every year.
Oh,
great. I think he starts off with a quote from Aristotle and then he goes into Winnie the Pooh. It's great.
Good night, Jamie Ann.
I haven't read Winnie the Pooh in a while, and I'm going through those quotes. I'm actually tempted to go back and read some. He's some just lovely, lovely language.
Yeah, it is.
I forgot.
I read the Tao books by Stephen Mitchell this year. Did you ever read the Stephen Mitchell translations?
Oh, of the Tao Te Ching?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the best by far.
Yeah.
I've read 20 different translations, and he nails it.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss our Sundays too. My wife, however, I've been missing Sunday dinners at her parents' house, so she wants me back. Yeah, I have it on my desk. Right? Is that the one you have, Aaron? Whoops, I think we lost Aaron. Is there any way I can put the links up for all? Yes, we will. We will put those all up for everybody. The links up. Yes. Absolutely will. And Erin's trying to text me because she got booted off. Hang on. She got the screen of death.
Hey, I'm
Hey, there you are.
I'm on my phone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there we go.
Well, that's
My computer is slowly restarting.
pretty cool.
It,
So
like,
Sherilyn wants to know if we were going to put up the links to all the past um, sessions, and I said, of course, they can
I
have.
think
Yeah, they can have access to them.
yeah, I would love access to them.
Maybe I'll create a little web page where they're all kind of linked together.
Yeah.
That would be good. It would help get things organized. Oops,
Oh,
I
man.
found it on. There we go.
That was quite a dramatic restarting of my computer.
Every once in a while.
It flashed. It was like a lightning flash, and then it gave me this gray screen, that the gray Mac screen of death.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've only had that happen once or twice.
Yeah, the last time I had that happen, my computer needed a whole like hard drive replacement and everything. Ruh-roh. Let's see. Let's get back into Google.
Well, I think our work here is done. So
Yeah.
the other, I was trying to remember last time that happened. Do you have a separate boot up disk?
No.
I don't either, and we both should have a little thumb drive with as a boot up disk, so we can like wipe the disk and start fresh if we need to. Are you backed up, I hope?
Yeah, I back everything up to Dropbox.
Okay. Do you use Time Machine?
No, I mean, everything that I need pretty much is on the cloud, on some cloud of some sort. So I use Google Drive, I use Dropbox, and then I have Adobe Cloud. The only thing I ever need to reinstall is Microsoft. I mean, even Keynote, I can just download again from the App Store. So I feel like everything's pretty much accessible.
There you are.
Here we go. Oh, oops.
Unmute.
Whoop, there we go.
Hey.
Hey.
Whoops. I see you, but I don't see you. I see little you.
Big me?
There's big you.
Okay.
It's funny. We got better picture from the phone.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Exactly.
Fascinating.
It is. Okie dokie. We're almost done.
Yeah. Any ideas for the last session?
I was going to ask you the same thing. I think we should take a week off. Let things play out a little bit. And I don't know, should we just do another Sunday night, or is there another time? What do you think?
Sunday night probably works for people since they committed to it.
Okay.
And I like the idea of just having like an open conversation.
Yeah, I do too. I'm going to try out Zoom as a platform for this, since this one was not it was the wrong tool for the job. I'm looking at my calendar here.
Good effort, though.
Yes, it was. Yeah, and it worked. I mean, the content was fine, and being able to, put up the videos and stuff like that was a lot of fun. I think that was a good thing. It kind of got us moving in the direction of how to do it, just a online self-directed course.
Yeah.
Okay, so the 13th won't be any. I could do the 6th. Oh, did I put that who that was in? No. Anyway, I could do the 6th. And perhaps the 20th.
I can do either of those. So if we want to give people time to let things sink in, the 6th is next weekend.
Oh, is it really? Oh, geez.
Yeah, but the
Wow,
20th
almost.
is
Yeah, that's too soon.
okay.
And the 13th, I'll be on my way to Florida.
Ooh, for fun.
Yes, lacrosse.
Cool.
So that's my fun. I don't do death-defying things, but I get my competitive fill. I'm not wood though, but I definitely have a competitive part to me.
I'm competitive with myself.
Are you?
Yeah, like, holding yourself to high standards.
Yeah.
So like I would always like be the top in the class, but it wasn't
Mhm.
because I was trying to be the top in the class. It was just like the standards that I had for myself were like, ended up pushing me there.
All right.
Although I get really competitive when I play air hockey.
See?
So it's not in me.
You might be a wood causative factor. You have enough crispness to your voice. I mean, you laugh a ton, but anyway, there's fire in there for sure, but there might be wood in there too. Yeah. I have a feeling. They also be part of your organization. It's like you're very
Yes.
So, all right. Well done.
Yay. That was good.
Yeah. So I need to bill some of these people, some of them on an installment plan, and get you some money too.
Cool. Whatever you feel.
You're too kind. And let's keep this project going. I think it can work. It's one of my big thing to accomplish this year is to set up an affiliate program where people are selling it, line people are selling it and making money. And we make a little money too. So I think it's a win-win-win-win-win.
Yeah.
Right. So
Especially once all the content and structure's in place.
Say that again.
Especially once all the content and structure is in place, it won't be as much work.
Yeah, exactly. Once we get those, and I think the recording, what we've done is we have most of it done at this point. Those slide things that we recorded are really, I think that's the way to do the lessons. And then
the only thing I worried about is if we're using these videos for profit and somebody stumbles across them. I wasn't worried about usage rights of a lot of the images.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's like something I need to redo or what.
Yeah, but we've got them. So we can go back and redo them for sure. I think that's something we should be above board with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's already written. It's just a matter of finding a different image and putting it in there and recording again. So we've got, the content's mostly written at this point, maybe 70% written.
Right.
And go back. I mean, I've got all my old slides from the beginning and then just narrate those. And if we're only doing, 6-minute segments, like you say, then it's a lot easier to manage than trying to keep a 12-minute thing going.
Right.
So I'm psyched. I think it's really a great thing. And then I think we just need to do a couple intros here and there where there's live video of us.
Yeah.
We can do that on Skype or through this or however we want to.
Right.
Sound like a plan?
That's the plan, Stan.
All righty, Aaron. Good. So last question for you. Help me. So I'll follow up with our 3 people that we didn't see. So that's one issue. Then how much more, it's like, what kind of follow-up emails do I give? I would also like to get out of this testimonials from people.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea, and feedback.
Yeah.
So follow-up emails. I mean, I was just gonna share personal emails. So like, I'm probably gonna do an anger ceremony. So I was just gonna follow up and tell everyone how my anger ceremony went. I mean, mostly I've been having like really personal conversations with a lot of the people. So Jennifer and Jamie have been reaching out to me. And I think Jennifer and Jamie are actually talking to each other a lot out of the class, which is really nice.
Okay, cool.
So it definitely facilitated some personal discussions.
You know, I wonder at some point would this require another level of, you know, like a closed Facebook group or something like that.
Yeah, the
Down the
Lyme
road.
Live More people have a closed Facebook group, and it's pretty, like, there's a lot happening on it. I don't know if it would be worth it to make it at this point when there's only 7 or 8 of us, but maybe
Right.
at some point when we have, you know, veterans who have gone through, alumni who have gone through the training, to reach out to each other.
Do you think that maybe do you know those people? Do you think a partnership with them would be worth thinking about?
I thought about that. One thing that I noticed, at least in our trainings versus their trainings, is that I feel like they definitely come at it more from that spiritual standpoint of, like,
Okay.
you know, getting rid of your fear and having only love. And
Okay.
they do. I mean, they say that, you know, they're like, of course you're going to have fear. I don't know, but it kind of was a little bit more like, we must just be loving, you know, and it's not bad. I mean, I thought that a lot of the things that they're getting at is really helpful, but it seems to appeal more to the, like, people who are probably hippies and loving crystals and angel cards and spiritual stuff, and like, no hate there. I had my years down that path. But I felt like it's a different audience, you know,
Okay.
in some way. But I don't know. We might be able to have some kind of, like, tangential relationship with them, where we're like a guest part of their program.
Yes. I was thinking more in the end lines with that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think there's definitely opportunity there. And then they seem really nice. I think that what they're doing is fantastic, and they're trying to provide a template around healing and all the dietary and lifestyle changes that accompany Lyme. And the people are very supportive in the Facebook group.
Okay, great. It's my first. I contacted them early on in my podcast, and there was zero response from that. I was a little bit surprised.
Yeah.
Now, I offered to promote what they were doing, so it's just kind of weird.
Yeah.
So maybe that just fell through the cracks or whatever.
Yeah, they seem super busy with this Lyme Less Live More thing.
Yep, for sure. And what's their connection to the movie? Was one of them in it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Dana was. Did you see Under Our Skin?
Mm-hmm.
She was the woman who worked for U2. She was the person.
Oh, right. Yep.
Managing.
She was the roadie.
Yeah, the roadie. Yep. And I'm not sure who she paired up with. Is she paired up with a Better Health guy?
I don't think that's him.
Okay.
That's Scott. The Better Health guy is Scott Forsgren.
Okay.
I don't think they're. It's funny. I thought they were a romantic couple. They're just business couple.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But that was just my impression. I really don't know.
Yeah, they do some interesting videos. Like, she had one that they sent recently on parasites, and they get a lot of different perspectives, but they definitely go down the more, I guess, the more spiritual path sometimes, or no, I don't even know what to call it, but just getting into things that sometimes I think can turn people off who are more logical oriented, and yet the messages are really good. It's just when you put certain phrases around it, I think some people can get shut down to the messages, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And it was interesting. I almost brought in today, I came across an article. There was a sociologist on the West Coast about 8 years ago, created an abstract for a presentation, for a paper presentation. So there's a call for abstracts for a conference. And he decided, well, let's see if I write complete gobbledygook if what'll happen.
Mhm.
So he wrote complete gobbledygook, and he was invited to present. And he kind of went back and forth. He explains in his article, Coming Clean about education. He says, I went back and forth about it, but I thought it wouldn't be worth it. And he says, I'm still listed on this, on like the resources for this conference that it was held back then. So my abstract is still floating out there, and it was written as a complete joke. And I think that's it's a similar thing. It's like without the grounding in the ceremony,
Mhm.
right? Without kind of being physical about this thing, it can drift off into that just gobbledygook.
Right.
It's hitting a punching bag somehow brings it all back down to really understandable, and doesn't get into energy and wood and all that. It just is, the language just starts floating out there, and we try to make analogies and all this stuff.
Right.
There's something, everybody's punched something at some point in their life,
Yeah.
and it's totally understandable, and you can get it. So if you drift off, my point is if you drift off into the talking about it and not the doing. And I think that's the brilliant part that you brought to this. It's like I said, I used to give people homework, but who the hell wants to do homework?
Right.
You do this ceremony. It's like, oh, that's cool. Let's do a ceremony. It's kind of like, let's do a protocol. We'll heal Lyme. If we have a protocol, we're going to heal it.
Yeah.
Instead of just experiment with it. So,
I like too how we kind of focus on like, this might not necessarily clear up all of your physical symptoms, but it will change your relationship to them and to how things, like to your experience. Because I think sometimes too, like things are like, you're going to be completely healed. And then people do it, and it's like, at the end, you're like, but I'm not healed. And it's like, oh, I failed or something,
Right.
and it just gets tricky. So I like that this is more, I don't know. I feel like it gives people more space to be themselves and to be human.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I believe it's also a part of dealing with the chronic illness that's just, it's like, okay, do you have a psychologist to deal with? But a psychologist is, maybe you got somebody who's very practical and helping you with certain coping skills, but, you can get lost in psychology too.
Yeah.
Talk about it forever and not move forward. There are a lot of wimpy psychologists out there. You might temporarily feel better, but you need it like a drug. It's like having a glass of wine. Yeah, I felt better.
Yeah.
But it didn't help. Doesn't move things. So hopefully we'll get some feedback. That I think Jennifer had an amazing experience.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll get some reports from other people too. They'll say, yeah, you know what, this has been helpful. So, but 1 out of 7, I guess, is is okay.
It's a good start.
It's something. It's not nothing, right? Oh, that's what the conference, this was the serious topic of the conference, was about the absence of absence.
The absence of absence.
Yes, a subject only academics could love. So it means something specific. It's some social commentary kind of thing. I couldn't quite follow around, but like there was an absence of absences. So they wanted to explore that. So there you go.
That was what they submitted as the joke?
No. That was the title of the conference.
Oh.
That was the call for submissions, was something about the absence of absences.
Yeah.
Does
that double negative sort of equate space?
No,
like it's like the emptiness of emptiness becomes space. Or is it like
because everything?
Yeah, or is it like this fractal nature where you're like there's absence and then you're getting further into absence? See, that's how you can get stuck if you start thinking about the emotions in this way, and it's like, and then it's just like, well, I didn't move my anger, but I certainly thought a lot about it.
Exactly. Just go kick the dog and you'll be all right.
No, then I'll never get hired for dog sitting again.
Smother the child.
Gag the child.
Oh, God, Worsley.
When he puts it that way, that's pretty intense.
It's memorable.
It is.
Well, he was part used car salesman, part motivational speaker, part healing genius, part organizational genius. I mean, he really just, he had all these talents that kind of all fit together perfectly, you know, and he had a vision,
Hmm.
and he just, he he made up 5 element acupuncture.
Yeah.
There wasn't, there really isn't. They're the 5 elements, but there's no causative factor in any Chinese medicine.
Hmm.
It's his invention. And my teachers talk about what happened when they kind of went back to visit him, and all of a sudden he was talking about the causative factor,
Yeah.
you know. And but it's a genius insight. It's a genius insight because it
I think-
gets, again, it's pre-language. It gets around language. You don't get stuck chasing emotions or symptoms. I mean,
Right.
so.
That's neat. My friend and I were talking the other night about just like these moments in your life where you sort of picked something up that you didn't need to carry. And we were just talking about how it doesn't really matter when you picked it up or why you picked it up, but once you realize that you're carrying it, like the only thing to do is to just press the release button on your waist and just like let it go. It's like, oh, there's that thing that I picked up, you know, from that conversation with my parents when I was 14, and it's like, I don't need that anymore. Just kind of weighing me down.
Yeah,
It was
it's
fun.
it's everywhere. It's, well, it's how the brain works. It's how our survival works. We hang on to that because we think it'd be valuable somewhere down the road to
Yeah.
protect us, right?
Yeah. Did you ever hear of the torus? Torus. It's like a
Is that,
shape, like a
yes,
geometric shape where it's like
yes.
a donut.
Yeah, there are a couple magic tricks you do with that, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you create this and you cut these loops with
Hmm.
scissors, like down the middle, on one of them it creates 2 interlocking loops,
Yeah.
and the other one big one. So when you, it's, anyway, so that's the trick.
There's some thought that like the human system flows in this like toroidal structure or whatever. It was interesting. We were talking about that too, and just getting. We were talking about flow actually, but we were just using different metaphors and geometric structures to think about it.
I don't think I've ever thought about it.
Yeah.
I've thought about a lot of things. Never about the shape of flow, though.
I was thinking about it one day, I guess when I was in Tai Chi class, and then I started like purposely walking slow, like because I realized that I'm very directed when I'm walking. You know, when I'm walking around the block, I walk with a purpose. Like I just always look like a woman on a mission.
Wood, CF.
Yeah, there you go. So I
Totally.
was like, let me slow down. And I don't know, I just got thinking about this like torus shape. And I was just like imagining myself like flowing like this torus shape. And I'm like, this is interesting. Seeing if I could feel it. Like, could I feel everything flowing inside me? Like, what does that feel like? I always keep coming back to my body. I'm like, what does it feel like when I'm like tensing about something? Or what does it feel like when I'm grasping at something or resisting or flowing? That's what I just kept thinking about over and over again. It was neat. I could start to feel it. Like, it's like, oh, I just was grasping at something or this person or this, you know, idea. And then, oh, no, I was resisting that, trying to stuff it back down. And then, you know what? I'm flowing right now. This is what flow feels like.
So
So
what does flow feel like for you?
it's just everything is open and spacious and my muscles aren't contracting. But yet I'm still like, I'm not like this mushy blob of like, you know, all my muscles are soft, but it's like, I don't know, I feel like my posture changes, like it's upright, but I don't know, I don't feel contracted. I guess that's mostly what it feels like, the opposite of contraction. It feels more like expanding outward.
One of the classic herbal remedies for the liver is relaxed wanderer.
Oh, I took that before.
I'm not surprised.
It was during grad school.
So the liver is in charge of the smooth flow throughout the body.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Lifelong challenge of yours, perhaps.
I'm sure.
I was thinking, so it's like I can only consume things in small chunks, certain things in small chunks.
Mhm.
Like my earth can't accept too much. So like I have to take breaks on certain types of tasks or
Mhm.
chunk them down into really small things. Some things I can totally wrap my head around and just kind of like dive into it, like this, doing this sort of thing. But I
Mhm.
was doing things today, just physical tasks,
Mhm.
nailing down some metal on the roof and things like that. And just like, it's like, okay, let's take a break. Okay. It's funny things like that. I was
Yeah.
also up on the roof of one of the barns and I was scared.
Yeah.
I had a little moment of sit with the fear kind of thing. And that got me thinking though, because some of it sit with it, but then some of it is just kind of just keep moving and
Yeah.
not freeze, right? So
Right.
part of it was, so I was going through this whole thing. It's like, okay, I don't have my phone up here with me. And if I go into a full blown panic attack about climbing back down the ladder, it's
Mhm.
like, you're going to be up here for a while because there's nobody around to hear you.
That's true. That's a good something to distinguish too. Like sit with it doesn't always mean literally.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just means like allow
Just,
it to be there
right.
and keep moving anyway.
Yeah. It's like scooch over to the ladder, stand up, and it turned out it was less than nothing. It was funny, but
Yeah.
my apprehensions about it. I'm not a fan of heights, so it takes me a while to get used to being up on the ladder again, and it's been a while.
Yeah.
Wow, so I'm not comfortable on it. So it was good because it was serious and it was palpable. So I was thinking about this course, and I was out there thinking, okay,
I've been avoiding highways still, and the other day I went to lunch with my friend, and I accidentally took a wrong turn and ended up on a highway. And
and
I
how'd
started
that go?
out, and it put me in the left lane too, of all places. Like I was just in the left lane on this highway, and I was like, "Oh, panic attack, panic attack!" And then I was like, "You know what? Just sit with it. Like whatever."
Just step on the accelerator.
Keep going. Like try to get over to the right lane. Try to exit the highway, and I eventually got over. But it was funny. I was like, "Oh my God, highways are just so fast. Like my brain is just not ready yet." I'm getting there, but still interesting.
It shows up as too fast, huh?
Yeah. And like off balance. So, but I think I honestly, I swear to God, I am having major histamine reactions. Like, and I realize that a lot of times before I get in the car, I eat because I'm about to go somewhere. So I just, put some fuel in. And so I was just thinking, I'm like, I wonder what I'm eating half the time before I get in the car. And am I eating like a whole bunch of histamine and then having some kind of weird histamine reaction? But I don't know. I'm on this histamine kick. I keep getting yelled at by my acupuncturist because I'm getting too focused on the biology.
Yes, I agree. Histamine is just it's one of the inflammation pieces.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, and it's useful, and I'm sure there are people, if you have a specific histamine screw up in your body, like one of those genetic SNP,
Yeah.
then it would be useful to know about so you can figure out how to bypass that. And I'm sure Chinese medicine has an herbal way to do that, but genetically you can do that too. So you take extra whatever it is. Isn't it?
DAO.
Is that what it is?
Vitamin C is also
A
a
big one.
really potent antihistamine. And they're in
Yeah.
an inverse relationship.
Yeah.
And also,
I've started buying the chewable C's,
Mhm.
and I'm going through anywhere from 2 to 10, 12 grams a day.
Wow.
And just kind of every hour, instead of a Tic Tac or something, I pop in a couple of the artificially flavored red dye number 10 or whatever it is, baby aspirin flavored vitamin C. But anyway, and it's I think it's helpful. I think
Yeah.
it's helpful.
It makes a huge difference. If I take my vitamin C like at intervals throughout the day, my skin completely clears up. I look different. I
Yes.
look different. Like my nose gets smaller because I guess it's usually inflamed, and like my eye bags start going away, and I'm just like my lips get bigger. I don't know why. I'm like, holy crap. It's really fascinating. Like usually they're like shriveled and like dry, and then when I'm taking vitamin C at regular intervals, all of a sudden they're like plump and luscious. I'm like, where have you been
Well,
hiding?
that's your spleen. That's fascinating. So the other thing, have you ever tried liposomal C?
Yeah, I'm taking the one from Seeking Health right now. I was taking, what was the other? What's the other big liposomal C brand?
I don't know.
Um,
Make your own.
Live On Labs, but they have soy lecithin in theirs,
Mhm.
and I think it was starting to mess things up. Like when I have like any amounts of soy, it's like things just start getting majorly messed up.
It's
Um,
too inflammatory.
yeah, yeah,
Histamine.
yeah, exactly. I know. So I'm taking the Seeking Health one, and that one doesn't have
That
soy in it.
that sunflower in it or something,
Yeah, mm-hmm.
or egg.
Yeah, sunflower. And that has
Yeah.
a huge positive impact. Like I just look so different. Like it just is like day and night. I'm like, man.
So when I had really bad cystic acne as a young boy and young man, two things helped. Well, actually, three. It ended up, I think, three. So one was vitamin C in high doses. The other was spirulina,
Hmm.
which was interesting. So, and not in super high doses, but so both of those cleared things up. And then the 5% benzoyl peroxide instead of the 10%, which is just a topical antibiotic.
Right.
And I was shocked with that because I've been doing the 10 all my life, and that had just really didn't help at all. But when I ratcheted down to the 5%, it actually was much more. It helped more. It was pretty amazing. But C was incredible.
Yeah.
It just cleared things up in a matter of, well, this it stopped forming new ones, and then it takes a week to 10 days for those suckers to heal.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
But
I know. It's challenging.
it did. So I would encourage you to. So with the have you how much do you take of the liposomal?
I only take about a gram of the liposomal per day, and then I spread out 500 milligrams of the I have sodium ascorbate that just regular that I just put in my water bottle, and I kind of sip on that throughout the day.
So why are you taking liposomal C?
Just was experimenting to see
Okay.
if there was a more potent delivery method.
Here's what I would say. On a small dose like that, I wouldn't bother
Yeah.
because the purpose of this is my understanding of it. And there's this cute old couple who I talked to about. I need to write them because they're so sweet, but I haven't written them in too long. But sorry, I'm feeling guilty about not talking to them.
Mhm.
Who do liposomal C, and the reason to do liposomal C is you can get essentially levels the same of doing an IV
IV, yeah.
without irritating your gut. And a gram, you can take a gram throughout the day and not irritate your gut. Now, it maybe do something else with the biofilm, so there may be some benefit there, but that's an expensive way to take 1 gram of C.
Right.
So have you tried like taking a lot of it?
I was doing like probably 6 to 7 packets of the Live On Labs liposomal C at first, and
And so is that 6 or 7 grams, or is that even more than that?
yeah, 6 or 7 grams, and it
Okay.
was amazing. Like I think that in the summer I had this like a few weeks where I felt like a completely normal person. I went hiking and I sweat. Like it's amazing. Like I start sweating again, and I don't sweat. Like sweating stopped in 1999, and like just every once in a while when I turn back on, like whenever it's like something happens when I'm taking vitamin C at high doses. It's like something turns back on. Like all the connections, all the neurons, everything starts connecting again, and it's amazing. And I feel like I'm 14 or like I'm 13 because it's the last time that my brain remembers feeling that way. Like my brain is like, aha, 1999, like we just got done seeing Austin Powers 2. We're graduating 8th grade, and it's like, it's so weird.
So how come you stopped?
What happened? I forget what happened. I think maybe it was from the soy. It started messing other things up. Like it was just something else got out of balance, and then I got set back majorly in August, and I kind of pulled away from the sea for a little bit. I'm not sure why, but then I switched. I mean, I started taking the sodium ascorbate, and I was taking liposomal glutathione at the same time too.
Do you have the same reaction with the glutathione?
Yeah, I mean, when I take those two together, it's like miraculous. Like I just feel normal again.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's expensive, but
Well, you can make your own. You can make your own
yeah,
liposomal
sure.
C.
Liposomes, yeah,
The same with glutathione too.
yeah, yeah.
I'll teach you.
It's interesting. It's so neat. Like, it's like, oh my God, like I get so excited. I'm like, I'm sweating. Like I remember in the summer I had like a sweat stash and I was like, yay. I'm like, this is so great. Like on the days where I feel fantastic, I sweat. Like when I appropriately, not like, you know,
I understand.
if I'm working out or if I lay on the biomat and I'm like, oh, I'm sweating. It's a good day. It's so neat.
Yeah. Well, you're right. Your body's, the pores are opening up like they should.
Yeah.
So I encourage you to experiment. Buy a jar of the chewables, and if you don't like the idea of the artificial stuff, you can get a gummy, which is a little bit better. Those are easy to take.
Mm-hmm.
And just try. I mean, like when I got started, I was just taking about every hour a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So C has a half-life of about 4 hours in the body. After that, it's pretty much done its work and we're out of it.
Right.
So you need to at least take it, you know. So I was trying to get as much during most of the day. So I, take some when I got up and when I got to work, I just had a pocket full of it.
Yeah.
And here's the most noticeable difference. It's a small thing, but I was out coaching in the sun yesterday, in the wind and the sun, and for the past 200 years, every single time I've done that, the first day in the bright sun, I get fever blisters. I get a herpes outbreak. And this is the first time it hasn't happened.
Cool.
And it's got to be the C. That's the only thing that's different right now. Well, the other thing is K2. That may have changed my mouth biome.
So interesting. Did you ever do what's it called? Lysine for that?
Yep. But usually, I mean, I'm taking the lysine afterwards. It's like every spring I forget that it happens.
Right. Yeah.
So
that's cool though.
Anyway, it didn't happen this time. So it's either the C or it could be the K2 because that's implicated with mouth stuff as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating trying to put it all together. My Lyme doctor had me on a CalMag supplement, CalMag butyrate, and I think, and it was like 2-to-1 calcium to magnesium, which that doesn't sit well with me, and I think it knocked my magnesium low again, and so I started having like crazy spasms at night and like the seizures, and then I just got the Ancient Minerals, the oil, magnesium oil.
Yeah.
I was having all those like GI problems, so I couldn't take my regular magnesium. So I started doing the oil, and that worked really well. And I stopped the CalMag butyrate. I stopped that a few weeks ago. I was like, that does not sit well with me. I don't care what my Lyme doctor says.
Yeah, it's the balance, man. It's the balance between the two. There's this esoteric pH dietary thing, but it's not the typical pH thing. It's a yin yang. And anyway, I don't want to get into I stopped working with this for a while just because like you went away from the vitamin C. I just stopped.
Right.
But so there's the food which has its pH, but then there's your body type, and essentially it's yin or yang, so it does one or the other, and it depends on what body type you are on how you process the food. So you can take one type of food, you can take a typical, and I've had people like this in the past, and they, I'm eating so well, and they seriously eat well. It's like they're eating all organic vegetables, and they're mostly vegetarian and lean this and lean that, and they're a mess. And it's because their body needs grease
Yeah.
and red meat and beans and heavy food to balance its pH. It needs the the acidic foods to
Right.
actually, and it may not be that they can still be acidic and need those foods, and that'll bring them toward more basic side. It's fascinating. So it's not just what the food's doing, but what your body's doing with the food.
Yeah.
And there are a few of these guys out there. It started with dentists. Everything starts with dentists for some reason. But anyway, it started with dentists, and it's fascinating. It's really based on blood pH, but everybody else uses other markers at this point. I ran into one book written by a man who actually tested blood pH, and he was an engineer by training and did this in retirement. And his book is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's dead and long gone. I think I talked to you about this before, but yeah. So anyway, so the calcium's on one side and magnesium's on the other.
Right.
They're antagonists,
Yeah.
right? And depending on your body type and your needs, you can't just give somebody calcium and magnesium together unless they need more calcium. And my wife's a calcium person. She needs more calcium than magnesium. She
Right.
needs some magnesium, but she better have calcium along with it.
Yeah.
Right. And other people are completely opposites. Like, just back off the calcium.
Yeah.
Back off. So that it's calcium, magnesium are big ones, and then sodium and potassium are other ones. And in our society, people are mostly magnesium deficient and mostly sodium deficient.
Yeah.
So there are lots of people I'll throw salt at. It says, you need to take some salt.
Yeah.
See what happens. See if you don't feel better. And people are like, oh my God, I feel so much better.
Especially because it brings all the people with their low blood pressure, at least chronically ill people.
Yeah. And people with high blood pressure too.
Yeah.
It's like, even, the little bit of salt isn't going to change your blood pressure any much more than it already is.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it's neat. And then I think there's like a timing to everything. So that's probably why I pulled off the vitamin C too, because I was like, this is great, but like over the long term, is it okay? When will I know to pull off it? Or I kind of get into this whole short-term gain versus long-term problem question.
Yeah, there's definitely a J curve.
Yeah.
Where things too
Return
much too long.
Yeah. Returns.
I think C is one of those things where there are a few of them where I'm not that worried about. C is one of them.
Yeah.
At this point, I'll let you know in a year and see what happens. If,
right.
My hair turns orange or something. But I think there are a couple things where it's not that big of a deal. What else did that bring up? Oh, what is her name? There's this wonderful she's written a couple books, and she gets very much into periodicity.
Mm-hmm.
Her first one was about sleep, but then she's written at least one or two other ones about hormones.
Mm-hmm.
And she says being on the pill is like the worst thing you can do, because there's no hormone in the body that's not cyclical. You need to cycle. So she's really big on body cycles. What's her name? I don't remember. Darn it.
It's not Christine Northrup, is it?
No.
Okay.
No, she's a little bit more out in she's not well known.
Yeah.
I mean, you might know her, but darn it. The books are at my office, so I don't. And I stumbled across her because I was researching sleep at the time. Mm-hmm. And she had a book on sleep. Yeah. Anyway. I'll remember, I'll give you her name. You'll like her.
Yeah.
She's a hoot. Very opinionated woman.
Yeah, it's fascinating. There's this in Tai Chi the one night we were talking about when one thing moves, everything moves, So like when you begin the hand movements, like your legs are moving in coordination with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me think about the vitamin C. And I was like, when one thing moves, everything moves. The vitamin C is moving in my system, but it's not just moving these isolated vitamin C pathways. You know, it's moving everything, and I was trying to
Right.
figure out how that all, you
Well,
know.
that's I wish I'm going to put this on you, and it's not you. I wish you vitamin people would be more, like causative factor oriented. Like, I
Right.
can't tell you how many, people come in after visiting their vitamin consultant and have 8 bottles,
Yes.
and all of them have folic acid in it.
Yeah.
And all of them have, it's like there's so much overlap. It's like how much, but it's like they've got this menu of stuff, and so they're doing this formula for this thing and this formula for this thing, but nobody's like, I talk about going upstream, like nobody's paddling upstream. Is like, what's at the source? What's
Right.
the fewest, what are the common denominators? If we put these in, we
Yeah.
wouldn't have to take the 1,000 vitamins downstream. We just
Exactly.
need to take the handful.
Yeah. I mean, and even like with the whole gagging the child, the screaming child, I'm like,
Yeah.
if I'm taking all this vitamin C, am I just gagging some screaming child inside me? You
Oh.
know, like I think
I don't think so. I
Yeah.
think C is one of those things that doesn't, and I think that's kind of Linus Pauling thing again. And the reason is because the C moves through the body so quickly.
Yeah.
So C was supposed to be something that we're constantly getting through the day.
Yeah.
It's like we got to the point, like every other mammal just about makes their own vitamin C, except humans. And the reason humans stopped is because they didn't need to, because they we're in some environment where we didn't have to do it. So it's meant to, we're most supposed to be getting it in.
Yeah.
And if we're not, then we run into problems. So I think C is one of those where like everything else, you can probably take too much. I mean, you can kill yourself with too much water, right?
Right.
But I think it's very, very difficult. I think the body's need for it and has a way of dealing with the excess too.
Yeah.
And we're probably, chewing on bark and berries and grass and just all kinds of stuff like that. And probably even small animals have a bit that we were getting from stuff. So anyway, so I don't think you can do too much C. I don't think C is one of those. I think sunshine is another one, like the vitamin D in sunshine. Now, if you're taking it through a pill, you can probably do it, but it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
I've only had one patient who's had a number above 100, and everybody else is low. So I think vitamin D is another tough one to do too much on. I think people don't have enough magnesium. I think people don't have enough iodine. Zinc is one of the ones I'm thinking about, but kind of go back and forth. Iodine, D, zinc, K2 for sure, and magnesium.
Mm-hmm.
Those 5. It's like I think almost everybody needs those. Almost everybody, including you.
I'm interested in the K2. I want to read that woman's book.
You definitely need to. I'm convinced Borrelia hijacks K2.
Yeah.
I'm convinced it does. I'm convinced something that it does hijacks the K2 and causes problems for us because we're lacking K2. So we get all these plaque build ups. So somebody else was saying, so people are starting to send me stuff.
Yeah.
It's funny. Now I'm a little bit of I guess I'm not quite in the shadows anymore. So people start sending me articles and stuff. There was one lady sent me this thing today about her practitioner in Arizona somewhere who has done some work, and he says that Lyme disease occludes the small arteries, and so part of the problem with it is essentially you're stroking out all over the body.
Yeah. Oh, that makes so much sense.
Does it?
Yeah. I mean, I get these like, I can feel it. Like I can feel when I have hypoperfusion, like when my brain, the blood flow has just stopped, and I'm like, oh my God, like it feels like my brain is starting to fall asleep. And then the same thing happens with my hands and my limbs, and it travels, like all of a sudden, like my left hand will just get completely cold, or like my left, foot, and I can just feel it happen all over my body. It's so weird.
Well, do you think that's more like magnesium and tension kind of stuff than? blood flow?
It feels like blood flow to me.
Okay.
Especially the brain thing. That's really fascinating. Like when I
Okay.
can feel the blood flow not getting up there, I'm like, that is a strange feeling.
So for me, that would be is like, okay, K2. You know, if your blood vessels are being blocked,
Yeah.
calcium is part of that, right?
Yeah.
We've got and you're taking the extra calcium and you feel like doo doo. So,
Yeah.
right? It's like so, especially if you were taking D, because then your body's replete with calcium, but
Right.
it doesn't. It's loitering around, so it's going to do bad things. It doesn't have direction. It doesn't have the transport proteins. So you
Yeah.
need the K2 to get the transport proteins to clear that up.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So is that what you think is related to the occlusion of the arteries? Is the K2 and calcium blocking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, granted, you know, probably it's like the calcium doesn't just decide to plug. There's some inflammation that happens first. There's some damage, and so the calcium is part of that. But if you have the K2 present, then the body just goes ahead and heals up the artery wall without creating the big plaques, the big hard plaques.
Right.
So it doesn't just decide to hang out there, because that's what's exciting and interesting, so to speak. So yeah, I think that's huge. Thorn, the best value I've found for K2 is Thorn. Does your practitioner sell Thorn?
No, I buy a lot of things off of Amazon and Vitacost and places.
Okay.
I don't know. She might sell Thorn, but it's so marked up. So, I mean, or comparable to at least what I'll find on Amazon. So
it's their liquid K was the most economical I found. I spent a lot of time price comparing. So even at full price, and if you want, I can get it to you at my cost if you're interested in it. And it's what I want to say. It's like it's almost like 9 months worth in the bottle.
Cool.
If you're following Kate Rion Blue's suggestions, which are essentially a thousand of so this is the MK4, 1,000 of the 1,000 micrograms of the MK4 for every 1,000 international units of D.
Mm-hmm.
If you're taking MK7, it's only 100.
Okay.
But the MK4 is different. So, and unfortunately, the MK4 also has a half-life about the same as vitamin C, about 4 hours.
Wow.
So some people seem to think maybe it's just getting absorbed faster.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody really knows. So I split my dose into 2. So I take a couple drops in the morning, a couple drops in the afternoon, the evening when I get home. Start dropping in my wife's mouth too. You have to take this. But poor family. They get experimented on first. And if they survive, then I roll it out to my patients.
I've made 2 people poop their pants with magnesium.
Oh, really?
Made me laugh. I warned them.
Purposely?
I warned them. But
how much did they take?
I don't know. You know what? My one friend, I told him, I was very specific. I was like, you need to take like certain types of magnesium. I was like, the type is very important. And he went out and bought some magnesium brand called Pro Magnor, which just sounds like it's designed to make you poop your pants.
Pro
Magnor. I was like, it sounds like an Autobot or like, kind of Decepticon that you're putting in your mouth.
It's probably just magnesium oxide, right?
Yeah, it was. And so he just took, I don't even know how much he took, but I got a text in the middle of class and he was like, I sharded it on the train. I was like,
thanks for sharing.
It was great. So.
Oh my God. Well, that's, I think, and the magnesium oxide, we only absorb what, 10% or something?
Yeah.
So that's much more likely. But I've had my mom, I think, anyway, with her manic depression, I don't know if I told you, my mom's manic depressive.
You did, yeah.
And there was once where she was around me and I had some influence and she was showing early signs and she stopped sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
And I was learning about magnesium at the time. And it was giving her magnesium oxide and she was up to 3 grams.
Wow.
and had nothing. It's like no reaction, no change in bowels, no anything. And so that's anyway, it was a lot.
There's a really interesting relationship between that and high histamine.
I'm not surprised. I
Yeah.
think she's got some underlying infection too. I'm
Yeah.
almost convinced of it.
Because I go through the phases where like I don't sleep at night and like my thoughts are much more
Oh,
looping.
really?
It's usually magnesium. Like I have to like up my magnesium at that time. And there's
Yeah.
also an inverse relationship between magnesium and histamine. So like if your magnesium goes too low, your histamine goes high. So I have such great results with magnesium and vitamin C. Like it's just, they're two of my main players that really keep me in balance.
So did you ever play around with Emergency? Do you know Emergency, the packets?
I used to take that occasionally back in the day, but
I mean, that's just C and magnesium and some B vitamins, basically.
yeah.
It's an easy way to take it.
It's interesting. It's neat, and it's neat to feel it out. Like I'm really good now at feeling out. I'm like, well, my magnesium's low. I need to get it back up. Like I know all the signs.
Well, that's brilliant. That's just brilliant.
Yeah.
Because that's the signs are all there. Our body, like you said, our body's a good friend if we know what it's saying.
Yeah.
We've just lost all that. Well, it's new. I mean, it's new.
I guess, I don't know, I guess people get like grossed out by things too, but I'm like super fascinated by like everything that happens, like I'm like inspecting myself all the time, like in a very curious and fascinated way, like hair quality or like listening to the sound of my voice or I guess, odors and stuff like that. And interesting, and putting little stories together.
Yeah.
Sometimes they are just stories. I admit that.
Well, as long as they're empowering stories.
This past year, I've been very stuck in my biochemical stories, but I'm always thinking about the other things too. Like the emotions and flowing and.
Yeah, it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
Antonio Damasio, Descartes' Error. You'd love that book.
Yeah, that's on my list. I think it's actually in my Amazon wish list.
Highly recommend it.
I'm gonna put it there again, just in case it's not.
So he says his big insight to it. Well, he calls it Descartes' Error, right? He says, first of all, in the West, we divided the body from the mind, which is a total artificial construction. He said there's no information that gets into the brain that doesn't first go through the body.
Right.
And then he says it's a two-way street.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a one-way street. It's not mind over body. The body influences the mind as well. Yeah. And it's just, I mean, what he talks, and then what I love is he said there are 5 fundamental emotions that are hardwired into the brain. That's his work too.
Oh, cool. Does it very much fall in line with 5-element acupuncture?
Exactly. The only difference is he's got disgust instead of sympathy, and disgust is just lack of sympathy. So,
right.
In my mind, it wasn't even a big leap to make. Yeah, no, it absolutely maps up 100%.
Yeah.
The guy just lays out the neuroscience behind 5-element acupuncture. It's incredible.
I was just telling my mom this morning, like I miss being able to do all that. Like I used to be able to read so many books and like extrapolate like what's going on in one book and like tie it into another book, like read that and be like, oh, this is like 5-element acupuncture, and like, oh, this is interesting. It also sort of ties into what I'm learning in my biology class, and kind of like synthesizing.
Mm-hmm.
And at my worst, like last year, I couldn't synthesize to save my life. Like it was just like, I couldn't pull, I knew that there were other pieces, but I couldn't pull them all together and actually synthesize. And it was really hard because I was writing my thesis paper for nutrition school. And so it was just like, it was so obvious. Like I could just feel how I just couldn't pull pieces of information together in a way that made sense. And it's just starting to come back. Like I'm starting to notice more where I'm like, just the fact that I was having a conversation with my friend the other day and talking about flow and pulling in this idea of like the toroidal system. Yeah, Tauruses. I was like, that's like old Erin. Like I used to be able to do that a lot better. But I've been focusing a lot on the antibiotic and microbiome research this week. But I can't, like outside of work, it's like I can't read. Like I'm still I'm good. I'm so much better now. Like I can read for like 4 to 5 hours a day and like do my work. But outside of work, I can't do anything intellectual. Like I have to like shut down that side, and I'm just dying. Like I I want to theorize. I want to like synthesize and pull things together, but it's like just not there yet. But it's getting there.
That's the earth energy, and that's your lips.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
So
Take
when that
more-
synthesizing's coming back, it's my lips getting all Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
Cool.
So take that vitamin C. Somehow that's doing something.
Yeah. It's amazing. Like when it gave me this glimpse in the summer, like I was just like, holy crap. Like I've been messed up since I was like 14 years old, because it just, when my brain like connected like that, it just took me right back to that place in time. Like it was just like, I haven't felt this good since then. Like it was just amazing. It was this cool moment where I was like, whoa, it felt like somebody plugged me back in, like hit the reset button. It was so neat.
All right. You got to try it. Let me know what happens.
I will vitamin C the crap out of myself.
Yeah.
Not literally.
You're only taking 6 grams. I mean, that's hardly anything.
I know. Yeah. I'll get back up there. I think it's tricky because I think it sort of upsets my digestive system, but I'm taking the buffered kind, like the sodium ascorbate.
Yeah, that just means probably I don't have problems with it, so I don't know. Again, I'm spreading it out through the day though.
Yeah.
So if most of it's getting absorbed before, it's just like it's the same effect as the magnesium.
Right.
If you put in more than your body can absorb at the time, some things get irritated. So C irritates it, magnesium, and there are probably other things, but not, calcium doesn't, right?
Right.
Nobody ever got sick from eating chalk. There's some other vitamins that just the body doesn't care about, but those two tend to irritate. So you just spread it out.
Yeah, find your dose.
Yeah. And take it multiple times during the day. Like I said, I've been taking grams and grams.
Yeah. Yeah, it's neat.
Go for it. Go for it.
Oh no, there's none in here. I was gonna say there's some in my water right now, but there's not.
All right, Chica.
All right, well, when I start synthesizing again, I'll be sure to send you some interesting things.
You're going to be scary when you're synthesizing because you're pretty on when you're not. So
it's scary in a good way though, I think. I mean, as long as I sort of balance it out. So
I meant scary in a good way.
I've got some books in me that I've been sitting on for 30 years. So I'm sure as soon as I start synthesizing, they're just going to explode out.
Just don't, what you say, shard it? Just don't shard it out.
I'm not going to shard any books out. That'd be funny. All right. Well, have a good night, McKay.
Thank you. You too. Good night, Aaron.
See ya.